I came home last night after watching Steven Soderbergh's new film, Presence, and I was left reflecting on the experience that was equal parts experiment and revelation. As a whole, I would say the film is effective, an ambitious piece of work that captures the kind of daring creativity that we've all come to expect from Steven Soderbergh over the last 30 years of his career. He's a filmmaker who always seems to zig when you expect him to zag, and Presence is another zig in his filmography. The film's premise is deceptively simple, but executed in a way that feels entirely fresh. We're watching a ghost story unfold, but from the ghost's perspective. Told entirely through the eyes of a spirit trapped in a house inhabited by a new family, the film employs a floating POV-style camera that drifts from room to room, silently observing the family's life. It's as if we, the audience, become a presence ourselves, unseen and unheard, yet intimately close to these characters. Soderbergh's use of this perspective is both chilling and oddly serene, and it completely reshapes what I expected from a haunted house narrative. The story focuses on the family, and particularly their daughter Chloe, who senses that something or someone is in the house with them. For the most part, the film unfolds like a family drama, exploring themes of loss, trauma, and connection, but with an added layer of this spectral point of view. Chloe's ability to sense the spirit creates an emotional bridge between the living and the dead, and watching her and her father navigate this unseen presence is one of the film's most compelling elements. The performances, I would say, are kind of hit or miss, but one in particular I found very, very strong was Chris Sullivan. He was a standout as the father. His grounded portrayal as the father of the family added a layer of warmth and vulnerability that offsets its colder, more detached moments. I can't exactly say the same about the rest of the performances in this film, and this sort of leads me to talk about some of my critiques of the film in general. The film certainly has its flaws. At times, the script leans too heavily on exposition, and some of the dialogue doesn't feel as natural as I think it thinks it does. There are a few scenes in particular where characters have these like villain monologues essentially, and there's one villain monologue in particular late in the movie that just kind of pulled me out of the story, making what should have been and what was already becoming a very haunting climax. It made it feel a little bit overwrought. I think that if Soderbergh had shown a little bit more restraint, especially in the end sequence, the ending might have packed way more of an emotional punch. But still, there are moments of brilliance in how the ghost's perspective is used. When characters look directly into the camera, there's this fleeting, jarring moment where it feels like they see me, they see the audience, that they know that I'm there watching them. This was implemented most effectively in the scene where the family has essentially a psychic medium show up to the house and see if they can communicate with the presence or if they feel any sort of presence in the home. It's a small but powerful trick that legitimately did send chills up my spine every time it happened, and it blurred the line between observer and participant. These were the moments that presence really shined for me, and it pulled me deeper into this experimental approach and in some ways justified its quote-unquote gimmicky style. Now, while the film is marketed as a horror movie, I wouldn't call it traditionally scary. It's more of a tense, intimate experience, closer to a ghost story than something like the Amityville Horror. I gotta say that Neon's marketing department really did the film a disservice by billing it as the scariest movie of the year. And, I feel like we saw similar issues in a movie like Longlegs from last year, but at least that had some scares to back up the hype. With Presence, I really worry the audiences going in expecting James Wan-style jump scares will walk away disappointed from this movie. Because this isn't that kind of horror. Instead, it's a quiet, meditative exploration of what it means to observe, to linger, and to confront loss. On a technical level, I felt that the film was pretty stunning. It takes a little while to get used to what we're experiencing, but once you do get used to it, the camera becomes as much a character as anyone else in the film with its own arc and these sort of like subtle emotions. It reminded me in some ways of Gaspar Noé's Enter the Void. It's a formal exercise as much as it is a ghost story. Watching this in a theater also felt essential to the experience. The sound design and the immersive visuals really demand the kind of full cinematic experience. I'm not sure that the film would play as well on home viewing. And one of the surprises that this movie has in store is that it's funnier than you think it'll be. My theater had more than a few moments of laughter, particularly in the first half, and I do think that some of that laughter might have been like uncomfortable laughter. Because every time I feel like we're hit with a joke, it's kind of undercut by a pretty serious moment. So that is to say that Soderbergh balances the heaviness of the themes with just enough levity to keep things engaging. There is one particular scene that I'm not going to spoil here that completely caught me, and it seemed everyone else in my theater completely off guard, having to do with the relationship between Lucy Liu's character and the son character in the movie. Again, I'm not going to spoil it, but there is definitely some sort of like dividing line between the father and daughter teaming up against the mother and the son. But there were some weird implications. Yeah, I think I'm just going to leave it at that. There are some weird implications. If you've seen the movie, maybe you know what I'm talking about. But also, I went online to see if other people were reacting to this particular element of the movie, and it seemed like no one else was bringing it up. Yeah, I'm not going to go into it here because I don't want to spoil it. But if you see the movie and you pick up what I'm putting down, let me know in the comments. Ultimately, Presence is another reminder of why we're lucky to have filmmakers like Soderbergh who are still taking risks and experimenting with the medium, or I should say people who are given the opportunity to take risks and experiment with the medium. Because asking this of every single filmmaker is just a futile task, because not everyone has the ability to do this. But he has exhibited throughout his illustrious and pretty multifaceted career that he is more than capable of telling a story with unique changes to the form. We are in this really kind of, in my opinion, annoying era where people claim that original ideas are scarce. And so films like this need support. If we want to see more movies like this, then we need to show up. We need to vote with our wallet a little bit. And Neon, if you're watching, which, let's be honest, they're probably not, please, I'm begging you, stop marketing every horror movie as the scariest movie of the year. Not every film needs to be terrifying, and setting up expectations only invites backlash. Let films like Presence exist for what they are: bold, inventive, and frankly, one of a kind. And Steven Soderbergh, if you're out there, which, let's be honest, he's probably not, never stop experimenting. And I will always be in the theater day one for any Soderbergh project. Those are my thoughts on Presence. Certainly a flawed film, not anything that's going to make it into my top of the year, but a worthy experiment and something that is should be at least viewed and celebrated for what it means for experimentation in the world of the horror genre, if you even want to call it that, or the haunted house genre. Maybe that's a better way to put it. But what did you guys think? Let me know in the comments your thoughts on Steven Soderbergh's Presence. Go ahead and follow me on Letterboxd. Go ahead and check out my podcast, and I will see you all next time.